In a land of sand, life is tough. It can sink away in an instant. The Arabian Desert is one of the most challenging places on Earth. But the animals here are resilient and specialized. Still, death is never far away. Creatures must seize every opportunity to find food, shelter, and water. Adaptability is the key to life and death in the dunes. Only the dominant male breeds. This herd bull spends most of his time patrolling. He monitors the females for hormonal changes that signal they are ready to breed. He does so by tasting her urine. He curls his lip, a strange grimace known as flamen, to pull the scent to what's called the Jacobson's organ on the roof of his mouth. With this, he can sense her hormone levels and determine when she'll be ready to mate. She doesn't seem to be ready just yet. The herd has other things to worry about. Their first challenge of the day is to warm up. At night, the temperature only drops to around 20 degrees Celsius. But to creatures built to withstand heat, which can exceed 50 degrees, that feels cold. The oryx turn themselves to stand side-on to the warming sun, exposing as much of their bodies as possible. Though they have white hair to reflect the heat, they're black-skinned underneath and can raise their hair to allow more of the rays to reach the darker, heat-absorbing color beneath. They won't have long to wait. The sun will bake the land in short order. The Arabian Peninsula is the largest peninsula on Earth, over 3 million square kilometers. It's dominated by an array of deadly landscapes. Vast sand dunes roll into dry gravel plains, fringed by desolate rocky hills. This is the Arabian Desert. Hostile and barren, a land seemingly devoid of life. Animals and plants that live here must cope with extremes of temperature, suffocating shifting sand, and an almost complete absence of water. They must also survive each other. Arabia was once part of Africa and covered in lush green plains. 35 million years ago, there was no Red Sea, so animals could freely move back and forth. 10,000 years ago, at the end of the Ice Age, sea levels rose and flooded what is now the Red Sea. Animals were stranded on the Arabian Peninsula, and as the climate changed, the plains dried out. It's only 7 a.m., but the mercury is already in the high 20s. The herd has wandered into the territory of a lone bull. Until they can secure a herd, bulls lead a solitary existence, guarding their turf and waiting for available females to pass through. But this group already has its herd bull. For many animals, this would be a certain fight, and their horns are potentially lethal. But for these desert dwellers, there's a far greater threat: the heat. A fight would waste valuable energy, but the lone bull wants the herd. It may be worth a challenge. Posturing They size each other up. The brief tussle's enough to persuade the loner that it's a fight he can't win. He lets the herd pass through his territory unhindered. It might be a long, tough journey. Recent studies have revealed that they rotate back and forth using the front crawl stroke. He can literally swim through the sand. What's sleek and streamlined beneath the sand looks a lot clumsier on the surface. His short legs give him a distinctive waddle. Predecessors' remarkable adaptations that enable them to survive the In bad drought years, half the gazelles may perish. Even for plants, life's a day-to-day struggle for survival. Dune grasses are one of the few species to colonize the shifting sand. Their long roots search a large area for water and ensure they catch as much moisture as possible on the rare occasions that it rains. These roots help stabilize the dunes themselves. Thick skins help prevent water loss to evaporation, but they don't protect them from the oryx's battery of tough, grinding teeth. She spends most of her time sleeping. Warmed by the hot sun, the lizard's turbocharged. She prefers to hunt at night and will return to her den to sleep through the hot day. Only if their bodies reach 42 degrees, a potentially fatal temperature, will the camels sweat to try and cool down. The oryx have a different technique to beat the heat. Northerly winds are fairly constant here and build during the afternoon. The oryx climb the dunes, exposing themselves to the breeze. The wind's hot, but it's better than nothing. Now their white coats act as reflectors, bouncing back rather than absorbing the sun. They have broad feet to spread their weight, making it easier to walk on the dunes. The hooves also make good shovels, and the antelope can dig to expose a cooler bed of sand, the ideal place to sit. The air they breathe in cools their blood as it travels to their brains, preventing tissue damage from the heat. Once the afternoon temperature has reached its peak, even the oryx must seek shelter. Little gullies in the dunes hold just enough moisture and offer slightly better ground for plant life. An oasis that creates small pockets of shade. The herd male picks the best seat in the house. Everyone else must fit in around him. The calves must still follow herd protocol. Settled in, they'll sit out the afternoon sun. Now sand flows in their place. By 5 p.m., the sun is starting to sink. Temperatures gradually release their grip on the desert. The sandfish emerges from his daytime hideout. Now at a more comfortable temperature, he can hunt. Normally, he uses his sensitive hearing to locate beetle larvae burrowing in the sand. But ants are on tonight's menu. He'll need to be careful. He's not the only reptile around. And some of his neighbors can be deadly. Diagonal tracks, a clue that another predator is nearby. A horned viper moves over the dunes with his body raised, so that only 2 points are ever in contact with the hot sand. The raised dunes give him a chance to absorb the last few rays of sun, to ready himself for the kill. He's an ambush hunter and looks for a place to lie in wait for a target to wander too close. Lizards, birds, and small mammals are his preferred prey. Now in a prime position, he waits for the cover of darkness. By day, there are only a few species of mammals visible in the desert, but night reveals a far greater diversity. Many have been hiding right beneath the camel's feet. There are 80 species of mammal in Saudi Arabia. Most are rodents. For tiny mammals like this gerbil, the open is a dangerous place. Survival depends on the safety of a burrow. He forages for seeds and grasses, and even the occasional insect. Coming out at night means the gerbil can avoid the sun. But deadly predators roam in the dark. feet at the front and where they connect with the skull at the back is supported by stretchy ligaments. The viper eats the gerbil head first, so that its limbs fold neatly against its body and don't catch in the snake's throat. He tries to do this as quickly as possible, because with his mouth full, he could be vulnerable to other predators. It might take half an hour to swallow the gerbil and several days to digest it. At night, insects are also more active. Now that the temperatures drop to a more comfortable 30 degrees, dehydration is less of a threat. Like the gerbil, their chance of running into a predator increases. A Rüppell's fox uses its keen hearing and sense of smell to locate a meal. The fox patrols a large territory, around 70 square kilometers, so there can be a lot of walking to find food. But persistence pays off. A large locust is a protein-packed meal. Meal more efficiently. Thanks to strong enzymes in his stomach, he'll be able to digest the entire gerbil except for its hair and claws, which he'll excrete. As the sun climbs towards the middle of the day, the weather conditions slowly change. Warm winds are constantly shifting the desert sands, molding and moving the dunes. During the summer afternoons, areas of high pressure intensify the breeze. The ingredients for the perfect storm. The bank of cloud is a sign of trouble. The high pressure stirs the winds, getting more of the fine particles airborne. A common but deadly threat arises: a sandstorm. For the inexperienced, it could be a death sentence. It would be easy to get lost in the darkness, blinded by the sharp particles, or suffocated as sand fills the lungs. But desert specialists have their coping mechanisms. Camels can squint into the storm thanks to large bushy eyebrows and long lashes that protect their eyes. They can close their nostrils to prevent inhaling sand. Luckily, most sandstorms blow over quickly. Sometimes the desert's far less forgiving. Beneath one of the nearby trees is a reminder of just how fragile life can be. The bones of a young camel. Even ships of the desert can sink. The desert can be devastating, but destruction can also bring opportunity. The storms brought down an acacia. The crumbly, sandy soil wasn't enough to anchor the tree. Even for plants, death is ever present. But the tree's loss is the camel's gain. Camels specialize in eating the least edible of plants. Their thick, rubbery lips act like fingers to pick up tiny leaves and bark from around large thorns. Like all ruminants, or animals that chew the cud, they don't have teeth in the front of their upper jaw. Instead, the lower incisors nip against a tough palate. It's like a pair of pruning shears with a blade cutting against a flat surface. The incisors strip bark from the fallen branches. Even the toughest woody material can be ground down by a battery of powerful molars in the back of the jaws. The food will be partly digested and then brought back up for a second chewing to absorb as many of the nutrients as possible. The gorging camels stir up insects that were hiding in the vegetation. Among them, a master of disguise. A female striped or devil's flower mantis. 6 centimeters